What's going on YouTube? Ryan Knox back from Dopamon once again. 2002 World Juniors is coming up, set to return August 9th, and rosters for the tournament are slowly starting to be announced here, just a couple days before the tournament begins. Today, just a few hours ago, one of the later announcements we have here is Team USA. Today, we are going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the changes the roster's undergone since December and who these players are. Team USA are technically the defending champions of this tournament. They were gold medal winners in 2021. So, defending champions, and yeah, a very, very good team. But they are missing a large portion, and I would say a substantial chunk of their skill. Starting in net, Drew Comesso, not a part of this team this time, and Dylan Silverstein. Comesso was their starter. He played extremely well in the games that he was in. They're also missing Ottawa Senators prospect Jake Sanderson. You can see over there.
He is fighting for a roster spot right now.
Yeah, Scott Morrow, Carolina Hurricanes prospect, I believe. And number one setter Matty Beniers, as well as Ty Smilanic, Chaz Lucius, and Tanner Dickinson. Now, some of these guys can be replaced, I think. You're not going to replace your starting goalie, your number one defenseman, and your first line center. That's tough.
And the best name
Yes.
on the roster, Ty Smilanic. You cannot replace that name.
Yeah, underrated player too is Ty Smilanic. He was actually, I think, a part of one of the trades going to Montreal from the draft.
He was.
Can't remember which one because there was a bunch with Montreal. Anyway, but he's a Montreal Canadian now. He was a Florida Panther before. Anyway. Yeah, so you're missing a huge chunk of your roster. They're still a very good team. They're still going to contend. We're going to talk about those changes after a quick cut, unless you want to talk about any player specifically.
Nope, none specifically. Just that a lot of star power. The number one D, number one center, number one goaltender. These are the three keys for any team you want to build around, and they don't. They lost them. Hard to kind of recover and fill those spots.
Yeah, Matty Beniers might be the best player not on any team at this point. Maybe Shane Wright. But yeah, we're going to talk about that now. Quick cut. All right. We'll start with goalies. We have... Why did I almost click the stop recording button, Alex? Who knows?
No, don't do that.
We have... I don't know why my brain went there. It's like when I exited from that game. Kaidan Mbereko, Andrew Oakey, and Remington Keopple. Keopple. Butchered that. Kaidan Mbereko is 5'11 goalie, so he's a little on the smaller side for a goalie nowadays. Played in the USHL last year in 35 games and a 898 save percentage and a goals against average over 3. But he's going to Coronato College in the NCAA for this upcoming season, so we'll see him at the college level. We have Andrew Oakey. He played in the Saginaw Spirit system last year. Or system. There's no Saginaw Spirit system. It's just a Saginaw Spirit. 6'2", 201 pounds. Saginaw last year had a terrible record. Terrible numbers in Saginaw because Saginaw was bad. He had an 848 save percentage and a 463 goals against average in 36 games. So, not very good. So, we'll see if he can bounce back this upcoming season in Saginaw. And Remington Keopple is our final goalie here. 20-year-old goalie, 6'2". Played in Cornell, or is going to play in Cornell University, so another NCAA goalie. And last year in Des Moines in USHL, had a 13-20-2 record in 38 games with an 893 save percentage and a 306 goals against average. So, no one really jumping off the page as far as goaltending is concerned. We have Kaidan Mbereko as our number one. I think that's who should be as far as it goes. But the goaltending for the American team, I think, is a big question mark compared to some of the other top teams in this tournament.
Absolutely. And in their two pre-tournament games, both Mbereko and Oakey played, and neither were spectacular. So if, don't expect either to stand on their head, don't expect this USA team to win based off their goaltending.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our roster because to protect these goaltenders, you need defensemen. And our first pairing D, we have Wyatt Kaiser on the left, and on the right, Sean Behrens. Wyatt Kaiser, actually, both of these guys, they're amazing, incredible skaters. Wyatt Kaiser, left shot D, third round pick in 2020 by the Chicago Blackhawks. He is able, not just his skating in general, but his footwork, his ability to use his edges for speed, especially in really tight spaces. He makes in his own zone. He's just so responsible with the puck. The U.S. is going to be, the puck in their own zone is in good hands with a guy like Wyatt Kaiser, who can protect the puck very well with his skating, embarrassing forecheckers that in his own D zone. So when you have a goaltender that you're not so sure about, a guy like Wyatt Kaiser, you can kind of rely on. And Sean Behrens, another great skater in his own right, who uh, a little bit different though, where he likes to use his skating, especially defending on the rush. I think he's one of the best backward skaters out there. Uh, and so he was a second round pick by the Colorado Avalanche in 2021, a little bit smaller at 5'10", but I think that these two just they bring a very tight defensive game, and I think the chemistry between them, one who's so good defending on the rush, one who's so good at recovering the puck and maintaining it in their own zone, that their defensive zone transition for this team starts here with these two. I think they're going to be really good.
Second pair, we have one guy who I think fits into that same kind of mold, very good transition, and another guy who doesn't, and we'll talk about that. We have Tyler Kleven and Ian Moore. Tyler Kleven, Ottawa Senators draft pick, 44th overall, round 2 of the entry draft, 2020. The University of North Dakota defenseman is, I'd say, the guy who doesn't fit into that mold. He's not the greatest skater. He's a strong defenseman. He's got a decent first pass, but you're the Ottawa Senators. You have a scouting report on Tyler Kleven for me?
Well, yeah, I can tell you all that I didn't like him when Ottawa drafted him, and they used the pick to draft him. They traded up for it, and Toronto, who they traded with, got Roni Hirvonen and Topi Niemela, who I really like out of Finland, and that was disappointing. I like Tyler Kleven has a lot of potential as a defensive defenseman, and his style of game definitely has value, but there's no elite dynamic qualities to his game that scream, yeah, you're going to be a top pair, even a top 4 guy one day. But, with his size, I think that just purely defensively, he can still be a force at a junior tournament like this.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention the Leaf Sens trade, but I was gonna let you do that.
Yeah, rub the salt a little. I could rub it in my own wound. You can't do that.
Every video that either one of them are mentioned. Tyler Kleven's partner is Ian Moore. He's a little bit better, more fluid skater. He's a right shot defenseman, 6'3". So it's a pretty big second defense pairing. Third round, 67th overall by the Anaheim Ducks 2 years ago. He's a good skater for 6'3". That's why I think he's a little bit more in that top line transition defenseman position. He's a Harvard University player, 35 games last year in Harvard and 15 points, 2 goals. He's going to Harvard next year, so smart kid to boot.
And I really think all these skaters are great at skating. In this third pair, we have 2 others who are incredible. Jacob Truscott on the left, and on the right we have Brock Faber. Truscott, I think his passing game is also incredibly on point. I think he can in all 3 zones, he's just capable of getting that puck to his target, regardless of if it's like a lateral pass, up the ice, in the offensive zone, something across the crease. I think that's really going to be valuable for this USA roster that I don't think has any solid star offensive D talent, like who's gonna bring the scoring from the back end. It's not huge, but I think a guy like Jacob Truscott can make a few big passes that end up on like a highlight reel or something like that. Truscott, of course, was drafted in the 5th round in 2020 by the Vancouver Canucks, and we have his partner Brock Faber, who was drafted in the 2nd round by the Minnesota Wild. He was born in Minnesota. He's currently playing for the University of Minnesota. Minnesota boy. I don't know if I'm huge on Brock Faber. I think he's a great skater. Might be one of the best, one of better two-way kind of guys in on this team, and I think really exemplifies like the U.S. style of defense that they're kind of going for with this roster. It's great in all zones, and this pairing is going to have to be a big one for the U.S. But I think as far as so far, I like it.
Yeah, drafted initially by the Los Angeles Kings, but he is in the Minnesota Wild system after the trade for Kevin
Oh yeah,
Fiala.
those yeah.
I just wanted to mention that too. So he was traded recently. This fourth pair are extra players. We have Jack Peart and kind of bafflingly, Luke Hughes. We'll get to that. First of all, Jack Peart. Speaking of Minnesota Wild, drafted defenseman, 54th overall, second round, 2021, and Minnesota Wild guy. In St. Cloud State University in the NCAA at 17 points in 32 games last year. And Luke Hughes, brother of fellow New Jersey Devils prospect Jack Hughes, 6'2" defenseman, fourth overall last 2 years ago now, 2021. The University of Michigan had 17 goals and 39 points in 41 games, but in all the lineup cards that we have seen, he's always been either the scratch or the extra guy. So we're wondering why that is, because as far as we're concerned, he's the best offensive, as far as I'm concerned, maybe I won't speak for you, but one of the better offensive guys on this team. And a little baffling that he is the extra / scratch. So we'll see if that changes. I don't know if he's hurt right now, if he's nursing something. I don't know, but from everything we've seen, he's going to play lower in the lineup. But this decor, I think, is fairly good all around. It's going to have to do this by committee.
I definitely think that Luke Hughes could be fitting in anywhere on this roster, up and down this left side, maybe even on the right side. Like you said, by committee, it's going to have to be very fluid. You're going to see a lot more even, I think, ice time between all these defensive pairs. There's not one that kind of like stands out as that's your top D pair. These are your two best guys. They're all good. They all bring different styles, and you feel like that they're going to mix and mesh well, and the chemistry is going to work. But there's no bona fide, this is our guy.
Forward group.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that brings us on to the forwards. Our top line, we have Landon Slaggert, Thomas Bordeleau down the middle, and on the right, Carter Mazer, not sure.
Mazer, I think.
Yeah. Slaggert, he's a 6 feet tall, but he plays really big, really strong, loves to outcompete, outmuscle, physically engage, especially along the boards. As a winger, I think this is going to be really valuable for the United States. Just good, solid guy in the boards, and I think that for a guy like down the middle, we have Thomas Bordeleau, who generates a lot of offense himself from the perimeter, and then tries to like cut to the slot and stuff. I think that these two are going to mesh really, really well. Of course, Landon Slaggert was a third-round draft pick in 2020 by the Chicago Blackhawks. Thomas Bordeleau was a second-round pick by the San Jose Sharks. I feel like I'm surprised that he even made this roster. I feel like he's maybe a kind of like the perfect swap for Ty Smolanic, but I'm kind of surprised that Bordeleau wasn't in like a set for the San Jose Sharks, wasn't kind of trying to compete for a roster spot. I know last season he did get to play 8 games with the San Jose Sharks, got 5 assists, 8 games, pretty good. That's like a 50-point progress over 80 games, if you were to play a full season. Obviously it's hard to expand that. He also got some AHL time, 3 assists in 2 games. He's making it work, and I think that he could be he can shine here. I think maybe they just gave him a call and he's like, yeah, I'd love to play number 1 center, but I think that he can step up here. I'm surprised that I think obviously clearly he has that NHL like readiness in him, and that's what the United States needs, because they don't have any other star talent really. And Carter Mazer on the wing just got an eye for the net. He's always just nice scoring touch in front of the net, good with his stick, especially on the power play, good speed, sees the puck really well too, and that's something that when you're scoring goals in front of the net, you're gonna have to, have good vision and see the puck well. He was a third round pick in 2021 by the Detroit Red Wings, and I think this line is just gonna generate some really tough forechecking from the boards. I really like it. I don't know, there's lacks that star kind of quality, but overall, but I think there's something to it.
Yeah, all this star quality, I think, is on this second line, or 1B line, let's call it. We have Matthew Nyes on the left side of Logan Cooley and Matt Coronato on the right. I This is kind of my first line, almost. I don't know. Like, the top six is kind of spread out weirdly. I don't know what they did here, but I like it. It's not bad. Anyway,
Yeah,
Matthew.
I stole the like these were the lines from that, the US pre-tournament games. It's very possible that what we have is the first line just because it was a starting line. They're more of like a checking kind of something defensive, and then they're ready that their second line is a 1B offensive punch kind of thing. So what the real first line is, who
Yeah,
knows?
who
That
cares
this is just
really?
a solid top six though.
Yeah,
That's what's important.
who cares what's one and two? Honestly, it's all a matter
Mhm.
of ice time at the end of the day. Matthew Nyes, the Leafs draft pick, second round, 57th overall, 2021 draft. He's 6'3", he's strong. He's from Phoenix, Arizona. Another player from there. He's actually pretty good too. In Toronto, we won't talk about him, but anyway, University of Minnesota NCAA player, 15 goals in 33 games for 33 points. Great shot on Matthew Nyes, and he's going to be on flank of Logan Cooley, one of the better players coming out of the 2020 True Draft. The Arizona Coyotes picked them third overall, ahead of Shane Wright. So that's very interesting. Um, yeah, University of Minnesota committed as well, so we'll see him potentially playing with Matthew Nyes, and I think that's probably why they're playing together. Last year, as part of the U.S. National Team Development Program, had 75 points in 51 games there. And on the right, we have Matthew Coronato, another Harvard player in the NCAA, is a Calgary Flames draft pick, 13th overall a couple years ago in 2021. Plays both sides of the ice, but we have him here on the right wing. Had 18 goals and 18 assists for 36 points. Harvard last year. Very, very good second line.
And that brings us to our third line. We have Redmond Savage. Down the middle, we have Charlie Strammel. And on the right wing, Riley Duran. Redmond Savage, a good substitute for best name on the roster after Ty Smilanic isn't. Great name. Uh, a guy who we talk about uh, guys are really good in front of the net. I talk from that first line on Carter Mazer. I think Redmond Savage is equally good in front of the net. He's got this kind of loves to pick up the puck and kind of do some flashy move in front, trip a defender, so maybe a pass, maybe a shot. You don't know. He just has that like high danger right in front of the net. I think of uh, as a third line kind of option. There's a lot of offensive potential here. He was a fourth round pick by the Detroit Red Wings in 2021. And then down the middle, we have who I believe is one of the only in the entire tournament. There are a few, but only the only one on this roster who is a 2023 first time eligible draft pick for the NHL entry draft, of course. Charlie Strammel stands 6'3". He's a big kid, 215 pounds, sees the ice really well. He can pass. A lot of offensive potential here. He's got a big year ahead of him for the US DP. He's one of those, and I think that this is a huge opportunity for him to kind of prove that he's going to be the number one center for that USDP program, like throughout the season coming up, as there isn't one, and that's kind of it's kind of like a 1A 1B situation for them in that program. And Strammel, he took this spot from a lot of other pretty good names out there. Of course, like he is a first year draft eligible. He's kind of young. There's some 19, 20-year olds that could have taken this spot that didn't. So he's gonna there's a lot of eyes on him, and I think he's gonna have to step up, and I think he will. I'm pretty high on him myself. I think I had him ranked 18th or 19th. or 20th in my way too early preseason mock draft rankings for 2023. So go check out that video as well. And on the right wing, Riley Duran is an explosive power forward style winger. Doesn't really have the full well-rounded game to him yet. He was a sixth round pick by the Boston Bruins in 2020. Uh, just like the rest of this line, I think there's a lot of offensive potential here. Not so much in the defensive zone, but it's kind of like a secret weapon kind of line for offense, and I like them for that side of the game at least, because I don't think that this team has enough elite top end star quality offense, so they're gonna have to find it by committee as well, just like their own defense too.
Yeah, interested to watch Strammel play. He's this is generally a 19, 20-year-olds tournament, and the younger 17-year-olds tend to not play as good because they're a few years behind their counterparts. But yeah, interested to see here a third line role could be pretty good for him. On our fourth line, this is not your typical fourth line, everybody. This is Brett Berard, Dominic James, and Mackie Samoskevich. We'll start with Brett Berard. He's a 5'9 winger, 154 pounds, New York Ranger draft pick. The 5th round 2020, 134th overall, excuse me. Providence College, NCAA last year, had 38 points in 36 games. So pretty high offensive guy. Dominic James is also 5'9", 148 pounds. Chicago Blackhawks draft pick in 2022 and this last year as an overager in the 6th round, 173rd overall. More of a defensive guy. So he's kind of your prototypical fourth line center. 39 games in the University of Minnesota Duluth last year at 18 points, 6 goals. And Mackie Samoskevich, 5'11", the biggest player on this line, 192 pounds. 24th overall by the Florida Panthers in 2021. I was huge on this kid last year, and I still am. I think he's a very, very good player. University of Michigan this last year had 40 games and 29 points. He's one of those players that can pass to anybody, anywhere on the ice. So I'm a little surprised he's this far down the lineup, but I guess it just kind of works with this fourth line. He'll probably find himself on either power play 1 or 2 to get most of his offensive time in. But this is a weird fourth line. It's got a weird vibe to it. It's very similar. I think you mentioned, the NHL 07, shooter, passer, two-way forward kind of vibe to it with +5 potential all across the board. And it's just a weird line. Who's the last couple to get finished off?
To round out the forward group, we have probably the two most completely different players on the roster. We have Sasha Pastujov, and I put him down the middle, but he plays right wing. Hunter McCowan or McCowan. Sasha Pastujov, 3rd round pick in 2021 for the Anaheim Ducks, and wow, this guy has incredible skill, but he is the biggest cherry picker I've probably ever seen. At like the level of competition that he plays at, it's almost like it's bad to watch him just stand at like the center line and just kind of like wait for the puck to eventually come to him. Makes him rely on his line mates, puts a lot of pressure on his line mates, and almost makes his line mates look worse. Definitely dropped their draft stock of his center, Danny Zilkin, I think. It made him look worse.
Yeah, just defensively.
The Guelph Storm OHL. Yeah, but just purely defensively, because offensively, he's incredibly gifted. We've watched him play live a few times. He's great. So I think that when he slides into this roster, wherever he goes, it's going to be an offensive dynamic threat. It's going to work, but you got to watch the other end of the ice because someone's going to have to pick up his slack, and that could be a guy like Hunter McCowan. And down the middle, I have Hunter McCowan, might be McCowan. I don't know, might be changing it. Who knows? I'm going to call him McCowan. He's compared to Sasha Pastujov, he's the complete contrast. He is a pure defensive first kind of guy. Sometimes plays wing, but he can also play center in that he just reads the defensive zone so well. He knows when to provide support for a defenseman. typically the center's job, and it takes a kind of certain kind of like, constant defensive zone awareness that often defensemen don't even have. So I think that just either guy here of our 13th and 14th forwards have the opportunity to kind of slide into this roster. They're perfect depth guys. You have a pure offensive guy, you have a pure defensive guy, and I don't know how either will fit in, but I know both will at some point, and that finishes up the roster for the Team USA 2022 World Junior.
Yeah, what do you think? What are you thinking? Where do you stand on this team? I don't know personally with it. A little questionable.
There is one player just missing.
Yeah,
You need if there was a Jake Sanderson here, I'd be like, what, there we go. Like there's enough offensive capability by committee, you know, uh, like I have a feeling that these D pairs, they're all gonna. I can see Luke Hughes
they're gonna
sliding in.
jumble
I
them
can
all over the
see,
place.
yeah,
Yeah,
20 minutes even for each line. Same for forwards. I can see a lot of shuffling, a lot of mixing up time on ice. If a third line, a guy like Charlie Stramel lights it up and this is his tournament, and he's gonna break into a top 10 draft pick for 2023. If this is his chance, maybe he becomes that number one center here. And Logan Cooley, there's a lot of potential, I think, for if all the lines are running. Yes, there's something there, but is it enough? I'm with you. I'm not so sure. I don't think that this team is going to be, when it comes down to it in like a medal game, if they're facing a team that's just has those players, they're going to edge this one.
yeah. For me, the biggest question mark is in goal. I think they can do it by committee for defense and forward. I don't think you necessarily need to have a superstar if you play like the Americans generally tend to play, very
Mhm.
fast, the speed coming right at you, without constant attack mode essentially, and stingy defense. But the biggest question mark is in goal, and they had Drew Comesso last year, or their last year in December, who instantly makes this team better. I think if you add him back, and when they won Gold Deer before in 2021, they had a guy named Spencer Knight. So um, otherwise, that's my biggest question mark. And if one of these guys can, Mbereko, Oki, or Kopel,
Couple.
can really take this team and drag them into a gold medal game, like I don't know, like if you go up against Team Sweden in the gold medal game and you have Mbereko in net and you have Wallstedt in the other, I don't know.
That's
I don't know. That might be the difference, but we'll see. If you have any ideas what this United States team is going to do, what your prediction is going to be, leave it in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think about this team. Is there anyone that should be on this team that they missed? Anyone that you think shouldn't? Let us know.
Of course, we're Dopamon, two best friends. We love to talk hockey news, analysis. We got mock drafts I mentioned earlier and scouting reports, and especially love to cover international hockey competitions like this one, especially when they come down to juniors, U20, U18s. We love this stuff. So stick around, hit like and subscribe to stick around for more dope hockey content because it is coming. We've done a bunch of other roster previews. If you're not a fan of Team USA, if you're not a fan of, Team Finland for some reason, we have Team Sweden there for you. So check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.